Now we're recording. All right. 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom, boom. Hi, welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending December 8th, 2019. We're rolling towards the end of the year. This is episode 341, where we talk about all things HVAC and smart building controls and pretty much whatever else we want to talk about. I suspect we're going to hear some stories about Ken Smyers and his Thanksgiving. And speaking of Ken Smyers, he is the co-host with the most, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only secret agent man, Kenny Smyers. Kenny, welcome to the show. Big dog.
Well, thank you, Eric. I have to admit my introduction's getting bigger, longer. You know, I get more, I'm a secret agent man. Thanksgiving was great, by the way. Let's just start with some of the things you reviewed there. And haste there. Thanksgiving was probably one of the most enjoyable Thanksgivings I had in a while. We had all the family in because my brother Jesse's daughter, Sydney, got married on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice.
So my sister Lori was in from Germany. Our nieces were in from Germany, just all over, all points, California, Arizona, Wisconsin, New Jersey. Just everybody came, and we had probably the largest family picture we've had in many years since the last great wedding.
Well, and then also the best looking Smyers, I understand that she is in competition for the most beautiful baby on the planet award. Your granddaughter, Nora, was in too, correct?
Nora Omani, she's going to be an Irish beaut. She's got the reddish strawberry hair and the green eyes, blue eyes thing going. Of course, she's only 1 year old, but she's going to resemble her mother and father, and they're very handsome couple. So, what about you? Tell me about yours. You were traveling. You were out in the desert, weren't you?
Yeah, you know, my wife's from New Mexico, so her family rendezvous every year for Thanksgiving in Phoenix at one of their cousins' house. It's a beautiful resort called Desert Mountain. So that's their big deal. That's where they do. They're celebrating. So that was awesome. We had a great time there. Evie and Axel had the best time ever. Cool. For you guys who don't know, I have three kids. I have a 30-year-old daughter, Britt. Evelyn Grace is 7, and Axel B is 4. And Axel B's at one of these stages, dude, where he is just over the top. He's very loquacious. We're walking through the airport, and he looks at somebody and goes, "Hey, you!" And this little kid, and they go, "Happy Thanksgiving," right? So I thought it was going to be a really good thing here because Abby and Axel have some cousins. Anna's brother has 2 small children, Bernie and Abby, that are Abby and Axel's age. So they were really excited about seeing them. So they're all going to stay at Liz's house. Liz is the one who has the big house. The cousin has the house. So Anna and I are staying in a hotel. It looks like we're going to get some me and her time, right? You know, because we don't get that much anymore. So anyway, Axel was such a terrorist on night 1 and night 2 because he'd get up in the morning and just wake everybody up, right? I'm hungry. Feed me. So anyway, long story short, I've got this really expensive romantic hotel. It's gorgeous, beautiful view, big, beautiful king-size bed. And then there's me, there's Axel, and there's Anna. So it didn't quite go as I had planned. But, hey, for control pros, you know that, man, you get paid the big bucks when things don't go right and have to innovate and figure out new ways to do things. And I wish I could say I was innovative in that situation, but I wasn't. So, but anyway, it was a great time. Very thankful for my family. And as we said last week, very thankful for the ControlTrends community. And Arizona was beautiful. And so we're back in the saddle though, dude. It's a big week.
Well, yeah, just hit the ControlTrends community, and we could start and just by thanking our sponsors as we enter into phase 2 of the ControlTrends Awards, the 2019 ControlTrends Awards, where we're done with the nominations. The top 5 or 6 each category are going to go into the final ballot. But, you know, and just wanted to review some of the great sponsors we have, and start off with the EasyIO. In KMC Controls, which were Platinum Plus this year. Yeah. We have Belimo, Siemens, Distech, Vicon, Honeywell, Cochrane Supply, Optergy, GC5 out of Poland, Kelly, Jackson, Loytech, CyberPower, Connect Air Functional Devices, CG&A, Contemporary Controls, ACI, BASSG, IoT Juarez, and Buildings IoT. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys, a lot for that. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do the show without you guys, and it is, it is the time we come together and we celebrate our industry. Kenny and I started this thing, it was like there was really nothing in our industry, outside of a manufacturer, maybe acknowledging people. But this is, like say, our deal. We come together, we celebrate the great people, products, and companies that make up our industry. We can't do it without the sponsors, but I tell you what, Kenny and I made a vow early on. We spend your sponsorship money well. And this year is no exception. We're going to have a huge time at BB King's in Orlando. For those of you who don't know, the Control Trends Awards are always on the Sunday night before AHR. And this year that falls on Super Bowl Sunday. So not to fear, Kenny and I Kenny came up with a great idea. We're going to start the show an hour early, and then we're going to end it when the Super Bowl starts, bring the big TV sets in, so you can get the best of both worlds. You're going to get the Control Trends Awards, plus you're going to get the best Super Bowl party in Orlando. So it's going to be exciting stuff. And along those lines, we still do have a little bit time left for the nomination period. When Kenny said it might be a little confusing, nomination period actually ends, I think, Kenny, was December 15th. Mm-hmm. So you've got this week to continue voting. The voting's been prolific, more so now around the world. There are more people that are nominated. The way it works is if somebody gets written in, we put them on the nomination ballot. So some of these categories, we have 40, 50 people or products or whatever. The top 5 or 6 in each category will go on to be finalists. And then we'll have the voting period for the finalists, which will go up to probably around January 28th or 29th. And then those will be the winners for the Control Trends Awards. So we're going to have a special announcement of the finalists next week. Can you tell our audience about what we're going to be doing next week, where we're going to be, and what we're going to be doing?
Well, the idea is to make it a journey. Like you say, always tell a story and make it an interesting journey. So what we're going to do is go down to the Miami area and have, take a look at that stadium that they're going to play Super Bowl 54 in. As you mentioned, after the Control Trends Awards, we're going to wheel in two 70-inch monitors on stage, and there's 6 additional TVs that are positioned throughout the facility so that you can just stay in your chair and watch the Super Bowl, and that's going to be probably the biggest, funnest tailgate party in Orlando for the Super Bowl 54. So we're going to go through Miami and tell a story. We're going to talk about the rising stars. We're going to talk about some of the people in our industry and basically create analogies and parallels with what's going on in the building industry. Take a look at some of the stuff from the Miami urban areas and then introduce those to our Control Trends Awards categories and talk about the people, solutions, and the products that you had just mentioned.
Yeah, and just so you know, Kenny and I are going to do something very, very devious. Okay, so we're going to actually do this as the show. We're going to announce the finalists on the show, and then we're not going to write it in. So you're going to actually have to watch the video. So why are we going to do this? Because we need some more Google juice. So we'll eventually put them up, but you're going to have to watch it. But we're promised to make it entertaining. This is when you're going to watch the video on, and that will drop next week from Monday. So you'll know who the finalists are, and then we'll start with the final phase, which all the finalists have access to Control Trends to post their collateral about their people, their products, or their companies. And they also have access to us to come onto the show so our community can get to know them, because people always ask, how do I win an award? And Scott Mensch, just so you know, it has nothing to do with paying us. That is completely legit. We don't do it that way. But we can tell you that there is a formula that we have noticed over the years that really works. The people that tend to win, this is what they do. First of all, they energize their own community, right? They encourage them to vote for them. They send them a link to the voting ballot. They ask them to vote for them. No harm in that. That works really well. And that'll get you really far. But the thing that gets you over the big top is when you energize the rest of the Control Trends community. And you do that by either posting on Control Trends or coming on the show, because people know you. And let's think about the logic of this. To complete a Control Trends ballot, you have to vote for every single category. And people sort of get a little upset about that sometimes. But the reason we do that is, let's hypothetically say you don't have a dog in the hunt for the peripheral product of the year. Okay? But then you've seen George Thomas from Contemporary Controls on Control Trends, and you remember him. You see it on the ballot, you go, I remember that guy, I liked him, so you vote for him, okay? So this is kind of like social media on steroids, if you will. So that's sort of the logic with that, but it's going to be fun next week. So I encourage you to watch that show.
Right, and just to, again, round out some of the information regarding Control Trends and the nominations, we've had participations from 34 countries so far, and, really representing Europe. Europe is real big this year. We have Global Controls 5 has an enormous following, and they're excited about what's going on in their world.
Yeah, they won last year, didn't they? Systems Integrator of the Year. They won an award last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and this year they're taking it to the next level. So they've got some they're big Niagara partners, and they do a lot of stuff with Niagara. But they're very active in the Middle East and their region of the world, which is Eastern Europe. So, everybody seems to know everybody, and we transition kind of into, we talk about a global thing, and we talk about EasyIO and some interesting things that have happened to them. But they've had some big news, and they're globally situated, so that they've got Malaysia, Australia, Amsterdam, and of course North America. And wouldn't you know it, they did things so well that something very marvelous happened to EasyIO.
Yeah, our good friends at Johnson Controls acquired them. So EasyIO is going to be part of Johnson Controls. That's exciting news. I think it's a great acquisition. I know a lot of people, the people that use the EasyIO product love it. They've got a great distribution network globally, like you said, very big in Europe and Asia. But they also have a really great network here in the States. People like Brian Hart from Fire and Ice have taken that product and used it in very, very unique ways. And so I think it's going to really allow Johnson to flesh out their product portfolio. Hopefully they'll invest a ton of money into Lim Hum Chat, who developed most of EasyIO's products, because I think those guys are geniuses when it comes to that. But it's going to be fascinating to see how that works out. As you know, EasyIO's got a great presence here in the States. Gina Elliott just does a fantastic job for them, as well as Brian Klein and the rest of the team. So not only did Johnson acquire the great technology and great products, they acquired great people too. And, Johnson Controls has got great people. So I think the cultures are going to meld very nicely together.
Right, and I think too the technology, like you said, Lim Hun Chat, the way he looked at things and the technologies that they were introducing, I think the greatest opportunities in our markets are in that commercial building size that's like 50,000 square feet, plus or minus 25,000 feet on either side of that, but the technologies that are emerging and really capturing, the market share are the wireless, the 5G ready, mobile ready, everything that's really happening now, because the technology is here, and actually we're going to talk about the AHR report that they just released yesterday regarding the optimistic and economic outlook for 2020. I mean, there's opportunities here, but the products just didn't seem to fit well in the various markets. Trying to fit a large square peg into maybe a smaller round opportunity, and it wasn't working. So if you pare away, some of the bells and whistles that aren't required, and get to the meat and potatoes, start at the actual problem, the pain point, and then work modularly towards the integration of the entire building. I think so. These technologies and EasyIO and Johnson Controls are going to probably fashion that integration to suit more of that light commercial building. Okay,
well, give me a little context on it, because you started out saying about the AHR report, and then you were talking. It sounded like what you were trying to make a correlation. AHR said, I'm guessing some of this stuff's not kind of ready for prime time. And then are you saying that EasyIO is sort of, and John have it pared down where they would fit into that? Sort of tie those two together for me, if you would.
Sure. The report that came out, and we have a post, it's called the 2020 Economic and Industry Report. And that's where they took, the inputs from a whole bunch of experts, and not just directly in the HVACR industry, but outside it. So this year, for the first time, the report also includes a check-in with many of our industry endorsing organizations. The purpose of this inclusion is to add perspective from the varying sectors of the industry that make up HVACR regarding discussions and happenings. Now, what happened was that they put this nice little pie chart, and again, you can go to our website and check it out. But the experts of the 1,418 total respondents, 79% report that the prospects for business are expected to be good to excellent. 79% increased business. 75% out of that 79% said they expect their business to increase. 25% expect their businesses to increase by more than 10%. So looking back at 2018 sales prospects compared to 2019, there was a 10% growth from 2018 to 2019. And then they're expecting this to grow another 10%. 34% significantly reported more than 10% growth. So it seems as though there's a tremendous market and opportunity out there, Eric. And again, the technologies to make that growth happen have to keep evolving so that they can fit more of the market. In other words, there's more tools, in the toolbox to go to different buildings and provide solutions for them. I think the greatest shortcoming we have is the actual technicians, the actual professional technicians that can go out and actually take this technology, take the money that's available, and make it happen.
Yeah, no, agreed. And, talking to different people in different industries, I mean, this is not, the labor shortage is not just, confined to our industry. Most industries are competing for talent. So, it's. I think the economy is continuing to grow. And you remember one of the last Johnson's conference we were at, they had an economist speak, and he was saying, if memory serves me correct, we were going to be good until 2034. There'll be some minor bumps in the road, but he saw that it was going to be good for quite some time, and primarily because, as bad as maybe the U.S. is and bad as U.S. market is economic-wise, I'm talking about the stock market, it's still the best investment apparently of any place on the planet. So money's going to continue to come in, which means our economy should continue to grow. And again, these millennials got it made, dude. I mean,
well, and the second vein of information I thought was really critical was that they've identified the 3 2020 top market segments. 72% light commercial, 67% hospital and health industries, and 64% residential. So these are the market areas that represent the greatest opportunity. So light commercial was number one. Light commercial buildings represent 72% of the optimistic economic tendencies and indicators that they've identified here say that if you have a product, aim it at the light commercial section, and you're going to see some good traction. You're going to see some good results.
Well, yeah, and if you think about looking at our Platinum Plus sponsor, both of them, EasyIO and KMC, they are really poised with that and sort of going after it right now. And a special shout out to Jason Mills from KMC. Jason does the marketing for KMC now, and dude apparently had triplets over Thanksgiving. So wishing him and his family well. Congratulations there. But yeah, if you think about like KMC and the Commander, for example, we did a post a couple weeks ago. We've done a couple of KMC posts, but one of them was, about an application where they were working with a nursery, right? Alvarez Technologies was working with them. And it was interesting because it was driven by operational and using data to improve operations. And the savings on that were phenomenal, which apparently was the main driver in this. And they also saved energy with that. But the Commander was a low-cost solution that had the flexibility to really do a good job with that. So if you think about the companies that are coming to the ControlTrends Awards, right? Johnson Controls has their what's their light system called now? The
Verisys.
The Verisys, that's right. The Verisys. KMC has the Commander. EasyIO's product is used in light commercial as well. Honeywell has their light commercial system as well.
Siemens has Comfort Point, yeah.
Comfort Point. Schneider Electric has StructureWare. So pretty much all the vendors, are really teed up for that. Our friend Stevie G from Optergy, he has something that works really well with that. So what do you think, Kenny, are going to be the differentiators with those products that are going to have people in this light commercial space?
Well, I'm glad you teed that up, because that was the final summary that I wanted to share with our ControlTrends community. Again, market segments which have the best prospects for 2020. Maintenance and replacement, retrofit and renovation, and then 64% new construction. So 72% maintenance and replacement, 67 retrofit and renovation, 64 new construction. But how do customers allocate the importance when choosing products? So to your point, the attendees that are going to HR, they look at first costs, comfort, energy efficiency, maintenance, indoor air quality, and sustainability. The exhibitors, the people that provide the services and solutions, believe the most important ones are energy efficiency, indoor air quality, first cost, maintenance, comfort, and sustainability. So as you can see, there's different perspectives on what's the most important thing for the building. So the
Yeah.
building owner's perspective versus the people that are providing solutions and services.
See, I see a huge disconnect there because, people are talking about first cost, which is, to me, it's typical, first cost. How cheap can I get it? I think as an industry, we need to work to educate the owners and the people that are making those investments on. That's not the first thing you want to choose. What's it going to save you over time? The sustainability, your operational expenses. What can that do for you? What's it going to do? So, again, I think it gets back to something you and I've been talking about a lot, Kenny, which is you got all the great products in the world you can have out there. The price points are great. You got people that can install them. So what's the differentiator going to be? And what that's again telling me is that whoever can communicate and get somebody off of first cost being the most important is going to be the one that's going to win. So it gets back to sales and marketing again. So
well, I agree. And then another the top opportunities, issues, and concerns are tariffs, the energy efficiencies and DOE regulations. So that can impact what you're saying too, and get people to move and go into an active state. Is if they don't, there's going to be a whip that's going to be hitting them every month with a fine or some sort of so like we saw in New York. I don't know how well it's progressing, but it sure was exciting news that if you got fined every month or you were identified on your bill, so you couldn't pass it on to your customers anymore. It would be the owner's responsibility to make sure he was in compliance. So there's regulatory compliance and new standards. But again, top of the list, lack of skilled workforce and opportunities to grow the trades. And then what is going to be able to deal with that is the technology, the automation, and self-diagnostics controls, artificial intelligence. So we're seeing how when you have a deficiency, there's going to be some sort of phenomena, response to that. It's either going to be some brilliant artificial intelligence solution or some remote operations command centers that are going to start emerging from global locations are going to support North America, because we've got all the this perfect storm starting to build. We've got the money, we've got the technology. We're seeing all these great solutions by who we just said again, EasyIO, KMC, Siemens, Distech. And I think Siemens has that Decigo that they're really excited about. Decigo Comfort Point, Distech, Vicon Edge 10. The Vicon Edge 10. I saw a presentation on that.
Don't forget LinkSpring.
Well, LinkSpring and that was I missed them on our sponsorship, and I apologize to Mark Peacock and Terry Swope. LinkSpring, and of course Stromquist and DMS Controls Group were also in there. So about 4 or 5 of those sponsors that would come in, in later. But so then you have the Honeywell Cyper, 10, 30, 50. You have brilliant in an Optergy, Lloydtech. Lloydtech has got some emerging technology that's going to
really
be.
Do. And they're a sponsor too. So,
and they're going to hit the North American market hard.
Right.
And then you've just seen some consolidation in our industry too, to provide better, more effective, less duplicity in the channels, the reorganizations that are occurring, the acquisitions that are occurring. It's just an incredible. 2020 looks really good. 2020 looks very, very good.
Right. No, I think so. And I think to your point, I think what we're going to see is, and we're seeing it already. I mean, remember Troy Harvey from Passive Logic? I mean, they pretty much got self-configuring controllers and stuff like that. So I think that, they're going to work around technology-wise a lot of that, where it's going to be less labor intensive to, configure the controllers and get them in the field and stuff like that. I think that you're going to get that. But again, I don't think anybody's really focusing on, the sales skills, because again, everybody's going to figure out how to deploy and work around the labor shortage. But if first cost is still the number one concern, then, whoever can get them off of first cost is the one that's going to be in the driver's seat.
And you said about the KMC Commander, one of the cleverest things I saw was the presentation where their contracting force was giving away the front end and the diagnostics and monitoring, and winning it back through the
service contract,
recurring revenue, the service contract. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, right. And I remember there was a guy that did a study, really brilliant guy, and he's still around. He's with Johnson Controls now out in Asia, but he was with Honeywell at the time, Larry Weber. And, and Larry really turned the lights on. He did a deep dive analytical for this. And I could never figure out why I could not get these service companies to go out and promote building automation controls to their customer base, right? And then Larry sort of explained to me that, here's the deal. If you got a service contract, that's guaranteed revenue. They know for every service contract, they're going to get X amount of dollars in upgrades, X amount of dollars in equipment replacement. So it makes their businesses very predictable, very sustainable, right? So what occurred to me was, back in the day, they didn't want to risk upsetting the customer by putting a technology in that may or may not work, right? I mean, they could lose the service contract. So protecting the service contract was their number one thing. Now, I have a point here. My point being, I think to be really successful for the vendors out there that are listening in light commercial, it's going to be a different group than you typically sell the Vicon type stuff to. Not always, but typically. The people that own the service contracts are the people that are going to get this done for you, okay? And so one of the qualifying questions would be, not do you do DDC or building automation controls, how many service contracts do you have, okay? Then if you can convince them, which I'm convinced, that, like everything else, service business, your cost to serve has to go down. And we've talked over and over, Kenny, about how building owners, large buildings and small buildings, are being influenced by what they can do in their homes and what they can do with their smartphones. So as I tell our service contractors, you want to at least let them know that you can offer this to them, because if you don't, somebody else will. And the fact that if you, with things like the Commander and these other products we've talked about, I mean, it allows you to do remote diagnostics. So it allows you to reduce your cost to serve. So instead of sending a technician out to diagnose and then go back to the parts place and then go back out to the job site, many, many times with many of these systems, you can do a lot of the diagnostics remotely. So in advance, okay, what you need to do, what you need to get. So you eliminate a truck roll going to the site and then to the supply house, stromquist.com. But your cost to serve goes down. Then not only that, you're able to do more predictive maintenance type stuff. You're able to generate reports for them about their energy spend and diagnostic and stuff like that. So I say to the service contractors out there who are not at least offering one of these product lines, you're in jeopardy of losing these service contracts, because your owners, if not now, in the very near future, are going to want the type things that a light commercial system can provide for you. So again, it gets back to, how do you position yourself in the customer's mind, and who do you have that's talking to the customer, that's moving them off of, well, I don't want to spend extra money first cost. But like you say, a lot of the KMC people are going in and saying, give us a 5-year service agreement or whatever, and we'll put the system in free for you, right? So that's a very, very clever way to move around it.
Yeah. I tell you what, and again, the automation, you mentioned passive logic. That's going to be a game changer. We've got a chance to meet with Troy, both on ControlTrends and in person, because as they've got some very exciting technology. And then you have Switch Automation. Deb Noller and her team have come up with this Switch DX3, a digital device discovery, where they can basically connect the building systems, and go out and find and discover all the devices, and then out of those devices, especially BACnet, they can see which points that they want to monitor and mine the data out of. So they do Switch IoT Gateway. So that's an interesting thing with the dashboards, so that you've got the CEO, CTO, COO, everybody gets their own dashboard that makes sense to them out of this data, and so the integration support that they provide on top of it. So what happens then is, if you have a building standalone, you're not going to have a tremendous need for extraordinary data mining or whatever. But if you have a couple, if you're a school district or a university or you're a hospital, and you find out from this data, some of the things that we know that SkySpark did, you find out you've got the heating valve and cooling valve running at the same time, and that's not supposed to happen. You can start to identify where your building needs help first, where are your greatest opportunities and savings, which building, if you had X amount of money, which building goes first to cure it, which sponge has the biggest savings opportunities, or it brings you into compliance with some of these standards and regulations that are going to be coming. So you need those tools that go from the very highest enterprise levels down to the single buildings. And to your point too, is we have just got some new thermostats in. Siemens has that RDS 120B as in BACnet, right? But if you look at the side of the box now, the compatibility, so you could take that from a residence all the way up to an integration of a commercial building. So these kind of technologies are going to force our technicians out there, our service contractors you're talking about, if they don't have their own knowledge of it, or they don't have a partner that can help them provide it, they will lose ultimately out on sustaining a service business, let alone grow it, because everybody's going to want the mobile first, that smart device driven access to data and information, alarms, and then also maintenance, diagnostics, runtimes, you name it, because it's there. The technology's there.
No, so I look at the service contractors as two opportunities. First of all, if you're not doing that already, it's a new revenue stream for you. It's something your customers are gonna want, and at the same time, you're protecting your existing service contracts from somebody else coming in that's going to offer that. But to your point, I think that's one of the things we're going to see in 2020 beyond. The light buildings are going to want the same sort of things that they can get at home and what the bigger buildings have. So great opportunities there.
Right. And Eric, we got some big events happening again. So as you plot your calendars, of course, first thing you want to do is mark down February 2nd, ControlTrends Awards, and then February 3rd, the HR show. And Ken St. Clair's tremendous learning opportunities. He's got 12 breakout sessions. He introduces many of the things we've talked about. Ken has been an unending source of information that helps us stay on point and basically separate the wheat from the chaff and filter out all the other stuff. Because I think everything we've done is very succinct so far. At least I like to believe that. You say we talk too much. We're very loquacious. Was that what you said?
Loquacious. Vocab word of the week.
Right. But it's exciting because, all these things are happening at once. You talk about a great little company putting out one product after another, Contemporary Controls with their Batsby. Yeah. Here they have taken this small, almost, frighteningly inexpensive piece of technology and applied the smarts from, 50, 60 years of industry and knowledge and technical know-how. These guys are experts on networks. They're experts on those routers and devices and in cybersecurity. Now, they start introducing products that now, there's no excuse. It used to be barriers. It used to be that the technology was too high and the entry barriers to get into this thing was too high. It's not the case anymore. So, and I just looked down at the thing. And last but not least, I wanted to really compliment some of the other functioning, entities like your Kellys and your distributors, like Stromkus, what it does, Jackson Control, Cochrane Supply, and all the other people in CG&A are getting better and smarter. But the real heroes sometimes are your Connect Airs, your functional devices, your Contemporary Controls, ACI, your BAPI, your Dwyer, because guess what? Those are the actual, day in and day. It's like it's like in a household, the most important thing in the house someday could be toilet paper. And everybody says, what the heck, but just think about that. If you don't have good sensors, good wiring, good, clean, current, electricity, power supplies, and these guys are doing it just day in and day out. So I think, we just got a good industry, and it's fun to talk about.
Right.
And that's why the award shows become important, because we get to identify these people.
Well, and one in particular that, all those you mentioned are great. We also Cyber Power, Dan Niowitz, man, that he's got some great, when you're talking about power, his power supplies are great. I think he's a sponsor as well.
He is.
So good stuff from Dan. And Sarah Montaloni, if you want to know for, some of our younger people in the industry, if you want to look at somebody that really knows how to work the people side of the business as well as the technical side, Sarah Montaloni is somebody that you want to definitely check out. She's one of the all-time greats in our industry. She will be a ControlTrends Hall of Famer at some point in time because she is good people. They do a great job with Connect Air. It's a very competitive business. And when we talk about what differentiators are, her product's a lot like everybody else's, but what makes the difference? Why do people deal with Connect Air? It's because of Sarah and what she does and what she brings to the table in terms of the personal side of the business. And I don't care what you say about the internet, and I don't care what you say about pricing and purchasing agents and stuff like that. All things being close to equal, not even equal, but close to equal, people are going to buy from people they know and like. So we don't talk a lot about, how you can be more likable. But Sarah is a great example of somebody that just really hits on all those bases. So Sarah, we love you. Keep doing what you're doing. And and we'll see you at the Control Trends
Well,
Awards.
and I have one more. Elper Olsmesler. We'll see if you're listening to our show. Okay, as Elper is on the move. BASSG is getting bigger and bigger. I was in a meeting the other day, and they mentioned where do you get your graphics from, and where do you get where do you get your SkySpark points from the services? And they said a guy named Elper. I said, I know Elper real well. Yeah. And so he's another guy. It's just keeps pushing year in, year out.
Well, he does. And again, if you think about when we talk about, first of all, the technology changes so rapidly. So if you're a contractor, it's hard to keep up with all that stuff. You might not have the personnel, you might not have the know-how, but one of the things we're seeing, and we've talked about this, it's been going on for several years now, co-competition type thing, where maybe you don't have the wherewithal to do the graphics and the SkySpark. You can sub that out to a guy like Alper. He'll work behind the scenes and provide that for you. Does great work. He's got a great reputation for that. BASSG.com. He's been on the show. You can check him out. But that's something else too that sort of a trend. And I guess this is sort of turning into a bit of a trend show because things we're going to see in 2020. But, it used to be it's what you know that counted, right? And you still got to know stuff. What you know still counts. But now you got to couple that with who you know for various reasons, okay? Because the biggest challenge people have now is access. We don't have time. We don't have the attention, right? So if you're a salesperson, that was my background. I mean, it's changed. When I first got in the industry, I could get into any place I wanted to, any hospital, any school board, whatever. I walked in with a box of donuts. The maintenance staffs were bloated. We hadn't had 9/11 yet, so people weren't concerned about security, and they would rather sit around and listen to somebody talk and eat donuts than work. But now that's all changed. The maintenance staffs have been slimmed down. These people don't have time. Because they're doing the job of 4 or 5 people. You can't just walk into a place. You have to have an appointment. On an industrial side, you got a phone. If you don't know who to call and have a phone number already, nobody's going to tell you who you need to talk to. So getting access is damn near impossible. So knowing people that can help you get access is key. But then when you get that, you better have something that you can offer them. You better not waste their time or you're not getting back in. And so I say this because, again, relationships are key. And who was the guy that said we're in the integrity economy now?
The guy from Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, Jeff Howe. Yeah. And so it gets back to, you're trading on your reputation. So you better do good work. You better do what you say you're going to do. And you better not screw anybody over because, once the word gets out, that's it. So again, it gets back to the trend is what you know, but it's also who you know. So Kenny, how do you develop those networks, man?
Oh man, what a segue. I knew you were doing that for me. You teed that up very nicely. Well, you go to somewhere like the Niagara Summit 2020 and you attend this fabulous networking event where you're going to be enriched with newest technologies, updates from the Tritium Niagara world, and then networking. And that's where you're going to sit into these different breakouts, and you're going to see who's who, and that's where it's electric. The networking that goes on in these meetings, there's a couple of them coming up. You've got CABA coming up with one, and that's going to be in, we'll go one at a time, but the Niagara Summit is going to be probably Realcomm, IBCon, Core Tech, of course, AHR. So let's start with the AHR because that's the closest one. Ken St. Clair, some of his breakouts, some of the educational sessions he's got on. I would try to make every one of those that you could, at least 2 per day, at least 2. And in those meetings, you're going to see probably the who's who of various things, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's the young guns, whether it's European influence and their perspectives on building smart buildings and integrated buildings and the touchy-feely stuff from different perspectives. But he's got 12 educational sessions that we'll have on the Control Trends. We basically cut and paste Ken's itinerary, but you can go on HR and sign up and then get yourself a little calendar thing where you can actually use the technology that they give to you and put it on your phone so that you can be reminded of what session, where it is, what time it starts, and who's doing what, so that it helps you with your agenda. But you have the April 19th to 21 in San Diego, of all places. April, San Diego. That sounds good already, but it's going to be the Niagara Summit, and again, it's going to be at the Manchester Hyatt, and Trace Sullivan and her team are putting together, the big packages. And in fact, they're soliciting, sponsors, speakers. It says, to contact Therese. There's a link on our site to go through if you want to be a sponsor, if you want to exhibit in the vendor area. And also, you'll probably stay in touch with it. If you register, you'll get your updates. But they're going to have developer boot camp, days worth of content geared specifically for those developing Niagara framework, trade show, educational tracks with specialized breakout sessions, social and network opportunities. So when you ask that question, where do you go to get that, to find out who's who? That would be a fabulous starting point for many people, or that's just a continuation and updates. But and then of course the CABA. CABA, tell us a little bit about CABA and Mr. Zimmer.
Well, CABA is like, if you want to know the facts about stuff, the hardcore research, those are the guys. I mean, they, Continental Automated Building Association, they're based out of Canada, but they cover North America. And, we haven't been to their conference yet, but I'm thinking we might want to do that. I think it's May 3rd through the 6th in Ponte Vedra, Florida. So Ron Zimmer is one of the great guys in our industry. We see him at all the shows. Send us an invitation. We'll come down and cover the show for you. But I think that's going to be a really good show as well. And they really get into the nuts and bolts. So if you're looking for, justification in terms of white papers or statistics and hardcore data like that to back up your claims about why you should have a service contract, for example, or why you should have, a system that's documenting your service work, that's a place you can go and get that information. I think the CAB event's going to be great as well.
Yeah, and then again, there's going to be a Realcomm IBCon coming up also later on after the CABA, and we'll be putting things up in the Ken's calendar in different places. There'll be different notifications, but that's how you really get out there in this integrity economy. You maintain a presence in these people, and if you are good at what you're doing, you can't help but find opportunities there, because again, I don't say a shortage. That sounds too extreme, but it is a shortage. But it's just that there's a limited number of resources, and people are looking to combine. Instead of everybody trying to have their own department and overhead, you're seeing a whole lot more outsourcing, a whole lot more third-party, management integrations, and because if somebody's really good at something, and you can get a guaranteed turnkey type thing, and you have these people that are endorsed by several other people, and they've got all their bona fides, in order, why wouldn't you make a good business move and use that opportunity and move on to the next one? So
right. Well, and I think part of what's going on right now with a lot of people is people are so busy right now. I'm talking about people that are selling stuff that they're not having to work for it so hard, right? I mean, they're just they're going out and people are calling them and wanting to do the work. So if things slow down, that's when this is going to become even more critical. So I think one really cool thing to do, which we do in Atlanta, is to find other vendors that sell other products that maybe have relationships you don't, and then if you believe in their product and their service, and then you bring them into your accounts and introduce them, and they bring you into their accounts. And that's been a really effective strategy for us. I know in some of the industrial accounts, some of these small towns, it's like there's just a guard gate there, and if you don't know who to see. So I've been known to sit outside the guard gate and wait for people to go out for lunch and follow them to the restaurant and just say, hey, do you work
stalking
at
method?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm a big time stalker. But, desperate times, desperate measures. And we're not in desperate times right now, but the economy goes up, the economy goes down, and we'll talk more about that if and when the economy turns. So.
No, but you're right about the gatekeepers. I mean, it's just something that the technology allowed us to put in answer machines first. I think was the very first one.
Yeah.
Where you used to be able to call somebody and the phone would ring 20 times till somebody picked it up, and that would drive people crazy, because if you didn't answer it, you just call and put the phone down, let it ring. Remember those days? And then it would drive people crazy. Somebody from across the office would answer, what do you want? Who is this? How many times are you going to call? I need to talk to Bob. I got something I got to show him here, and I need to make an appointment with him. Or Bob's not here anymore. He left. But the point being is now you go one ring into voicemail, and people just ignore the heck out of it. And then, of course, emails. Emails at first were ingenious. It was a great way to, communicate, network. Now they have systems where you have to register through a third party. Then you sign on after you pay you $250. You sign on, and then you go to the building. Then you go to the department, and then their calendar pops up. You have to type in your name, request an appointment with so and so, and then the third party controls that and reaches out, and puts the other. So they've created a barrier so that you can't even directly, contact the people you want. You got to go through somebody else, and it's a paid service. So it's just that's
and
tough.
it's hard to develop, relationships with people where they feel like, well, if you help me out, I'll help you out with that. But now one I use, and I'll share with the community, and I haven't done it in a while, but was using Facebook and social media. And what I discovered was that, virtually anybody you want to see has a Facebook page. And I don't know whether it's still true now or not, but you just start liking their Facebook things and making comments and so on and so forth. And then they recognize your name. Then you call the company and you ask to speak to who's in charge of social media. And it's usually a vice president someplace, and they recognize you from social media. And then, I've gotten in that way with people before too, because they're so appreciative that you're liking their stuff. So, but hey, speaking of social media, a company that's doing that really well right now, in my opinion, is Distech. Lauren Scott and Laura Jean are just doing a great job. They're all over Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So they just do a really nice job. And so hats off to them.
Yeah, and Siemens is doing it too. I see Josh Felprin, Seth Wald,
right.
and Mickey Mantis. They're posting every day, and the Vicon folks do it too. So Therese and her team are doing it. And I tell you what, I don't even read the newspaper anymore. I have 2 or 3 sites, but one of the things I do check every morning is LinkedIn, because I want to see who posts what regarding what, and then again for calendar and reminders, it's a great place. The daily jog of important events. So I think LinkedIn gives you a way to pare down exactly what you want to see. So if you don't want to see something, you don't put it on, you don't access it. And
Mark Peacock does a lot of good stuff on LinkedIn as well. So does Fred Gordy from Intelligent Building. So what else we got, buddy?
Well, that was it. It was a fast week. Again, we recommend everybody go visit Ken St. Clair's December edition of Automated Buildings. The theme was building wireless inside and out. What's really important about this December edition was that Ken has contributing editors. And I tell you what, I don't think people realize just how good, these contributing editors are, and how varied they are. For instance, December articles were The Evolution of Building Platform, Mark Peacock, The Productivity Paradox, Chris Irwin, J2 Innovations, Data Analytics is about more than FDD, John Petsy, Sky Foundry. One of the really good ones, I have to give Scott Cochran credit, All I Want for Christmas was probably one of the best summaries of product evaluations in the year 2019. And it was clever because of the obvious, All I Want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. Remember that? Yeah. But he says, he talks about the Vicon Edge 10 being just an extraordinary controller. Distech's S1000, Tritium's 4.8 systems database, and what the improvements there. Phoenix Contact, it's a PLC with a ported Niagara. So you get the firepower of a PLC, but you get the wire sheets and all the tools of the workbench. Honeywell's Cyper Model 30 is cut a lot of people's attention in 2019 because it has it has 4 ports. So the IP connectivity is truly an opportunity. Having a 4-port switch on board really sets it apart. As more end devices become IP enabled, the Cyper 30 is future ready. Optigo has a ONS-S8 aggregation switch. EasyIO's FTO4, unbelievable. So it's a 4IO Wi-Fi controller, BACnet, Modbus, and Sedona, and it's as we look for the lower cost of acquisition of buildings, especially in one-off application, this little guy is a home run. Tossie Box Lock and Key, Johnson Controls, and the Cisco MRP Ring Manager for these larger enterprise applications. This is a real clever way to they work with Cisco to get a 16-port managed switch capable of connecting 500 plus IP network devices. And we also have Optergy, and we also have Loytech. So just a whole lot of champion products and solutions and people this year, Eric. So
we should put a link in the show notes to that
okay.
post, which sounds good for sure. So, wow. Well, good stuff there, Kenny Smyers. So I guess as we wind this show down, remember your last chance to do your nomination vote. You can copy that link, send it out to your network. Top 5 and 6 in each category will go on to the finals for the ControlTrends Awards trophies and recognition. Kenny and I will be in Miami Beach, God willing, next week. One of the questions, if you want to reach out in comments, is who's going to drink more mojitos next weekend, Kenny or me? And will we be able to finish actually doing the awards, be sober enough to finish doing the awards? But we're going to be posting that next Monday, Sunday night or Monday. You'll get the video, so you'll get to see who the finalists are. And we're going to rock and roll from that. But we're in full swing right now as the holiday season comes about. So with that, Kenny Smyers, very, very special thanks to our community. And have a great week. Remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, and be like Ken Smyers, a secret agent, man.
What?
You got to go Indeed, Kenny. Come on.
Indeed.
You've forgotten already. Indeed.
No, but I just, that was, you just cut me off guard there, because normally it's
pay attention, man.
be bold, stay relevant.
I mean, we're on episode 341. I don't want you falling asleep at the wheel when we do the outro, bro.
Hey, dude, I was ready. You had me going with those mojitos. I was thinking I could easily win that. I'm gonna bring my best. I'm gonna bring my A game down there.
I was training over Thanksgiving, so you might not be so good at that. So, all right.